Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I am Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis. And this is your Wednesday pod. We talk with Ryan Day on Tuesday afternoon. That's a lie. It was actually in the morning, still technically. Is there such thing as pre-noon? Can we make that a thing?
Yeah, I think that's the morning.
Isn't that
No,
late
I mean,
morning?
like, you know how there's like afternoon and then evening? Like, what's the cutoff? When does it go from afternoon to evening?
I don't know. We could just call it brunch. We had brunch with Ryan Day.
Yeah, that's cool. Because, like, I feel like the afternoon gets two different distinctions. You get afternoon and evening, while the morning is just one big long thing. When can it be morning, brunch, noon, afternoon, and then evening? This is where my mind is at on a Tuesday afternoon, by the way. We're about to talk about the offensive line for the umpteenth time. So, like, sorry that I'm also focused on what we should call 11 o'clock on a Tuesday.
I think I'm just going to call it brunch. Brunch with Ryan Day.
Okay, yeah, we had brunch with Ryan Day with no food. Though I did see a bunch of players when we were on the indoor doing our videos up in the cafeteria eating. I think I saw JJ up there. I wonder what they had on Tuesday. I wonder what the meal was. We were talking about before Ryan Day started how they should put a roosters in the building. And I think that is a great idea, but I also think that is a terrible idea.
It's a good idea for the offensive line we're about to talk about.
It is. But it's also like a bad idea for the wrong offensive lineman. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like Ethan and Yawa, they had him lose weight. But like Ian Moore probably needed to gain weight because he was... he's in the second year. Speaking of Ethan and Yawa, I asked Ryan Day, is he an option at right guard? And he said a lot of words that essentially were like, yes, Josh Padilla is expected to have a full week of practice. At least that's what they're hoping. He said the same thing about Taiwan Malone. And he had no update on Cardinal Tate. I think those are all the injury updates we got.
Philip Daniels is also in the boat of going to practice this week.
Okay, so on Saturday, we're going to be playing the game of will they or won't they? Because Ohio State plays UCLA, and maybe they'll play. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll have them out for another week. But the bigger news that aren't just like housekeeping things, Stefan, is that they are going to have a right guard by committee approach. How did we get here?
I mean, we got here by Tegra Shabola not playing well. That's where it starts. If Tegra Shabola was playing well, Ohio State would let him get every snap, and there would be no discussion about it, right? Because it doesn't particularly sound like Josh Padilla or Ethan Owenyawa are taking this job by storm. I think there's two things happening where Josh Padilla is probably taking a step forward. Ethan Owenyawa has shown some things, but Tegra's struggling is kind of where the core of a lot of this discussion pops up. And I thought the order of things during Tuesday's press conference was interesting because it did start with you asking about an update on Padilla and then asked about Ethan Owenyawa. And then later, Ryan Day was kind of asked about the offensive line as a whole, kind of their performance, what he saw against Purdue, because, it obviously wasn't great in real time. And I think upon review, it was still not particularly great. I think we had said on the Leave No Doubt pod, it maybe wasn't as bad as kind of it felt in real time, but it wasn't good still. And then eventually Ryan Day got asked about can Josh Padilla start if he's healthy? And he essentially was like, all right, listen, we're going to rotate at right guard. Everyone's an option. Everything's on the table. And I think he was kind of like, I get it. You guys don't think Tegra's been good enough. We don't think Tegra's been good enough. I don't know if Josh Padilla or Ethan Owenyawa is a better option. So we're going to rotate these guys and figure out what's going on. And that's going to make, I think, for barring any injuries, make for a pretty interesting Saturday, because not only do I want to see how these guys perform, now I want to see how Ohio State does divide it up. Is it as simple as, 2 drives for Tegra, 2 drives for Padilla, 1 drive for Ethan? Or is it, if Padilla comes in and he's playing well, you just keep rolling with him? If Tegra's playing well, you just keep rolling? What does it look like against a team that you're favored to beat by 30 points? It's going to be really fascinating. And selfishly, as someone who has to write about this game and find different angles before Ohio State, plays games of consequence, right? Michigan and onward. These next 2 weeks, we now have a storyline to track on Saturday. And I think I'm going to spend a lot of time saying, all right, who's in on this drive? How did he do on this drive? What was the result of this drive? Okay, now who's in at right guard? It's going to be pretty interesting. And I will say, you're right, Stephen. It probably will be okay, we'll get to Saturday and we'll see who's playing and who's not situation. I think it's pretty important for Ohio State that Josh Padilla and Philip Daniels, for that matter, play in this game and are available.
I'm stuck on the fact that you talked about, these next couple of weeks are going to be boring. Well, now we have something to be interested in. It's whether or not the right guard situation. And you're right. It's just I cannot believe this is what we're doing. This is what we have to do now. We're all going to be glued. I don't even think anybody's going to be watching the actual game. I think we're just going to be watching right guard.
Yeah, because everything else that's left to be determined will start in a couple weeks, right? Like
No, I know.
like
but
I
it's
said
just-
on here too, it's like I open social media and it's like people bickering with each other about Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin, and it's like Lane Kiffin bickering about Ohio State or Indiana or Texas A&M being the number one team. It's like we all know these questions are going to get answered in like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing complaining? I almost said a word I shouldn't have said. What are we doing complaining about Texas A&M having better metrics? You pull up metrics. There's other metrics where Indiana and Ohio State are better than. Like, we're just doing this thing where we're bickering, and it's like, I don't know, man. Everyone knows Ohio State should be number one right now, and everything else will kind of sort itself out. If Ohio State wins the Big Ten, that means they beat Michigan and they beat Indiana, which means Julian Sainz is going to win the Heisman. If Indiana wins the Big Ten, Fernando Mendoza is going to win the Heisman, and Indiana is going to be the number one seed because they just beat Ohio State. Like, this is all, like, we finally have gotten to a point where we don't have to argue about this stuff. And now we have SEC coaches tweeting about how he doesn't think Indiana's good. Listen, dude, they're going to make the playoff and you might play them. Like, just get to that point. Like, who cares?
And the other part is if they both play like, crap in the Big Ten championship game, then like Ty Simpson or Marcel Reed's going to win.
Like, we know how this works. Well, there has never been a more like, because last year, I don't think we had a ton of certainty last year because it's like Ashton Genty's putting up amazing numbers and Travis Hunter's doing amazing things. And then like, I don't know, the last, like, because even when Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud were going after, it was like, okay, we got to see what this guy does here. And it's like CJ lost to Michigan, but then, Caleb lost, and it's like, okay, like, this will be kind of interesting. Like, we know how this works. The two best guys are going to play each other. And if they both suck, then the guy from Alabama who wins the SEC is going to, like, this is all so simple. So, yes, I'm happy that on Saturday we can watch right guard because we don't know how that's going to work out.
I just think it's funny because you said, you almost said a word you shouldn't say. You said bickering, so you've already flirted with the
we're
word.
Close.
The Rants pod on Tuesday was essentially, there was a 30-minute session where I'm just like, I cannot believe we live in a world where Ohio State fans and Indiana fans hate each other. Who would have thought? But this is where we are.
This is basically the December 10th to 17th of Christmas shopping, but for college football fans and coaches, because that we do that every year. You look up and you go, crap, Christmas is in 2 weeks. I got to buy some stuff. And I think people are like realizing like, crap, the end of the season's in 3 weeks. Matt Rule's got to go out and talk about his running back, why he should be in the Heisman conversation. And I think like, did you guys see like the ACC, like the official ACC account tweeted out like team A, team B, who should be higher? And it was a dig at Notre Dame where they were saying basically Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame. I think all of these teams and fans and everybody is now realizing like, oh God, the regular season's over. And like for some teams, you might not play anybody that great the rest of the year. Like Ohio State, they don't play anybody good until Michigan. And then you have the Michigan game, which is obviously a whole other thing. But like, there's a lot of teams that are looking at their schedule right now that may maybe have a bye this week, and they're like, "Oh, we don't really play anybody. We need to start doing this now. Right. We gotta start having this conversation now because guess what's gonna happen if you don't? They know what it's like to be sitting there on December 23rd at 8 p.m. and go, I haven't bought any Christmas presents yet. I'm in trouble. There's gonna be nothing under the tree if I don't do anything. So I think they're trying to do that right now.
So
right guard.
No, what do we think? How we feel? Because it's seriously, I'm being like, we're being facetious right now, but seriously, like, I mean, we're here, right? We're in a situation right now where Ohio State's got 3 options of what they want to do with right guard, but they're not like, we're not saying that from a place of strength. We're saying that from a place of they do not know which one is their best option. And we are entering game 10 of 12 regular season games, and it has actively gotten worse. And it doesn't feel like they've been able to truly evaluate the position in game because Josh Padilla has had a small role in games. Ethan Yawa has had a small role in games. And the game that Tegra Shabola finally bottomed out in, one of those 3 options was unavailable, and another one of those 3 options was also spending time playing right tackle because your starting right tackle was missing the game. So you started Ian Moore for the first time, right? So because it's not like they went to Ethan Yawa as a starting right tackle. When Philip, a guy who's played tackle for multiple years in college football, they went to a second-year tackle, which I thought he played pretty well, and Ryan Day said as much. I thought it was funny because it was such a real, genuine thing. It was not alarming. It was just like, that's fair. There's things you do in practice that you don't do in games, which is why game reps are so important. And he mentioned with Ian the fact that he's so practice programmed that you just don't play through the whistle the same way in practice because you're not trying to get guys hurt, especially in season. And so maybe he wasn't playing through the whistle just because he hadn't been programmed to do so it was fun to watch him adapt to that. But with the right guard situation, it's a lot of options, but right now they're not good options. They're just human beings, and one of them has to play right guard. And the question, now that we've established right guard is a problem, is how big of a problem is that? Because that's not just about Ohio State. That's about asking a question of, is there a team on the immediate schedule, meaning Michigan, meaning potentially Indiana in a Big Ten championship game, who has interior defensive tackles who can exploit the fact that your right guard situation might be a problem?
I think the answer is absolutely yes. I look at Indiana's defensive line. I think that you have plenty of guys who can attack right guard and make that a problem for you. And I wish I had articulated this point when we did our Monday Leave No Doubt pod, because I do want to move past the Purdue game and kind of rewatching it. But it did feel like times where Purdue was able to attack Ohio State there and make some things difficult. And I'm thinking to myself, like, at some point, Ohio State's going to face a defense that can get, I mean, we saw Illinois do it, get Ohio State into 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7 situations. And you know right away where you're going to attack them. And that might be the difference between, punting and getting a first down, is someone going after right guard. So, like, I'm officially at the point where I don't know if it's going to cost Ohio State a game. It could definitely impact Ohio State's chances of winning a game, right? It is the struggles at right guard. And I think I'm very torn on here's what I think the answer is going to be. I think it's going to be a rotation. I think they're going to go into the playoff like last year, where Tegra Shabola and probably Josh Padilla are rotating. I think that's the most, like, if there was a betting odds on what's the most likely thing to happen at Ohio State for right guard, it would be those two guys rotating. And then I think there's a second layer of, what if over the course of these next 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, Ethan Owenyawa just looks awesome at right guard, and it's starting to click for him, and he just gets all the snaps there. I think that's an option, right? And the same goes for Josh Padilla, and the same goes for Tegra Shabola. But I think Ohio State is no longer at a point where they're looking at right guard and just saying, we're just going to play this guy because he's experienced, right? We joked about that, when we talked about Devin Sanchez with Lorenzo Styles, and we joked about that when we talked about Josh Padilla at right guard. And it was kind of this thing of, this staff has shown us that they're going to stick with Tegra and they're going to stick with Lorenzo. And there's no reason for us to, think otherwise, because they know these guys are veterans, blah, blah, blah. I think they're at the point of right guard where everything's available. If someone wants to steal that right guard job, like, it's yours. Like, no longer is Tegra versus the field. Like, it's open to everyone. And does Tegra maybe get an edge because he's got some more experience? Sure. If they're all playing at equal level, which means probably not good, then yeah, I think you probably lean Tegra, the guy with the experience there. But if any guy shows any slight edge, or let alone an obvious edge, then I think Ohio State's more than ready, more than willing to make the move, which I think is maybe progress from where we were before.
Mario Landino, Tyreek Tucker, Dominique Ratcliffe, and Hosea Wheeler don't scare me. Those are the defensive tackles on Indiana's roster.
Tucker's pretty good. Tucker's pretty good.
I know. No, they're good. They don't scare me. Right guard makes them concerning, because that's 5 different guys you can throw at right guard. And all it takes is Ohio State plays 75 of them to go wrong. And all of a sudden, the game that shouldn't be interesting is interesting. Which is why, for the umpteenth time, Andrew, we are talking about right guard.
Yeah, you're mentioning that, it's, you line those guys up at right guard. It's also, I mean, let's be clear, it's also a strand on the left side of that line too, because if I was a defensive coordinator kind of mapping this out, you know what I would do? I'd be blitzing off the left side. I would be trying to confuse Saraveld and Montgomery and Hinsman on that left side of the offensive line, going, I think we can win our one-on-one matchup on the right side, right? Like, you're not going to have 2 guys on one on every offensive lineman. You're not going to have a jailbreak. I mean, unless there's a complete breakdown. So it's saying, I think we try to overload their left side and try to get pressure on Sands' backside. And then you just hope you win one-on-one against Tegra, which, like, has kind of been happening. So yeah, I think it's worrisome for Ohio State that they're at this point. And I think this is a massive game, because I don't think they want to be in a situation to where they feel like they have to make a change going into the big house on November 29th. Like let's say Tegra plays against Rutgers and he's fine, and he's abysmal against against UCLA, and he's fine, and he's abysmal against Rutgers. And you go, there's just no way we can continue with this. We need to make a change. I don't know if that's the spot you want to have a new guy stepping in. I think you would want a guy who has done it, which is why I think this is such a big week for like Josh Padilla. We've mentioned Anyanwa. I mean, we'll throw in Gabe Van Sickle. I don't know if you can really have a 4-man right guard rotation against
You can do whatever you
UCLA.
want. You can do whatever you want in life.
But I mean, even if you only have 10 drives, I mean, I don't know if 2 drives like each basically is enough of a sample. So, I think you want to have this kind of solidified as to what your plan is after this UCLA game, because then you have basically a dress rehearsal against Rutgers. I think you want to have people healthy for that game. For example, if Carnell Tate doesn't play against UCLA, you probably want to get him a few snaps if he's healthy against Rutgers. Get him back in the flow, get him back in the rhythm, and then afterwards you tell him to get off the field and put some comfy shoes on and wear a coat and sit down on the bench and get ready for Michigan. I think you want to be in the same place at right guard. I think they need to have more answers than they have right now by Saturday at midnight, by Sunday morning, because you do not want to kind of flirt with not really knowing what you're doing going into Ann Arbor.
Rashawn Benny, Enal Etta, Trey Pierce, and Trey Williams don't scare me as much as Indiana's crew. But they're Michigan, so the culturistic part of it makes it. But even then, this is an X's and O's conversation. This is not a, hey, is Ohio State gonna run to the right for 40 plays against Michigan, right? That's not what they're not going to do that. In fact, their best, even Bo Jackson's touchdown run that got taken off the board, that was to the left. So anything that's explosive about this running game is going to come it was like a counter play. So the key blocking in that situation were Luke Montgomery and Carson Hinsman in that situation. So anything good they do is probably going to come to the left. Ryan Day brought up 2 runs from Bo Jackson, one of which I put on Twitter. Both of those were to the right. And in both situations, Bo Jackson had to fight his way back to the line of scrimmage and then go get a first down. And it worked. But you can't ask Bo Jackson to do that 12 runs a game, which is why they're not going to ask him to do it 12 runs a game. So the question, Stefan, is here's the next question. Of the people who have played at least 100 snaps for Ohio State this season, the only person, according to PFF, with a lower grade, and again, we always say take PFF grades with a grain of salt, than Tegra Shabola at 55.5 is Bennett Christian at a 53.2. And their job descriptions are different. Bennett Christian's played 300 less snaps than Tegra Shabola has played this year. Nate Roberts is at 97 snaps. He's a 46.3. He's a true freshman who's spending a lot of time playing fullback. Right? Here's where all the other offensive linemen are. Austin Saravelt, 82. Josh Padilla in 86 snaps, 82. Ian Moore, where the bulk of his snaps just came this past weekend, 74.5. Ian Moore's played more snaps than Josh Padilla has this year, and that's because he has a start and Josh Padilla doesn't, obviously. Let's see here. Where else we got? You start dropping down a little bit here, but Ethan Anyanwa in 78 snaps, 67.7. Philip Daniels in 458 snaps is a 60.9. Luke Montgomery, who I skipped over accidentally, is a 72.7. Everybody else is like average to good. And then there's Austin Saravelt flirting with really good. And then there's Tegra Shabola and where he is on this. And I feel like this has been a week-long trash Tegra Shabola across the beat, and I don't want this to turn into this, but you have been saying it for 6 months. Maybe part of the thing is Tegra Shabola can't play 65 straight snaps. So if you offset him and now he has to play 30 snaps, maybe you get the best version of him. Because I thought he looked very good against Penn State. Yeah. I thought he looked very good against Texas. I thought he looked decent against Illinois and against Washington. But for whatever reason, when the challenge of I might come off the field for somebody else who might take my job is not there, we're not seeing the best of Tegra Shabola. So maybe they do just spend this week playing 3 guys, lock in on 2 of them, and then for the rest of the season, if Ohio State's playing 60 to 75 snaps a game, Tegra's playing 30 to 35, and the other guy's playing 30 to 35, and that's it. It's not ideal, but it's where we're at.
I think if I were to predict what's going to happen, I would predict that. I'm more confident in that than someone emerging and taking the job, or someone emerging and keeping the job in Tegra's case. Because
time has run out on the idea of somebody taking the job from Tegra Shabola.
Potentially.
I don't know if it's there yet.
At least until after December 6th. Yeah. Now, when you got 30 days to prepare for a football game, whatever. They might, right? Last year they came out and all of a sudden Luke Montgomery was starting at left guard, right? So anything is possible when you have 30 days to prepare. They don't have 30 days. They have 5 days to prepare for Saturday, 5 days to prepare for the next Saturday, and then 5 more days to prepare. And really like 4.5 because one of those days is Thanksgiving. So it's like you're going to practice and then go to somebody's else. So you have less, and then 5 days after that if you get through the next 3 weeks still undefeated. The time of, if they were going to make a switch on who was going to start on Saturday, they would have made it during the bye week. And they didn't do that twice. So I am assuming Tegra is going to start, and Ethan and Yawa and Josh Padilla are going to play, and they're going to split it. And whatever that split looks like, maybe it's 20-20-20, maybe it's 25-15-15, or whatever it is, those three are all going to play right guard on Saturday. And then they're going to come out of this game, and Ryan Day and Brian Hartline and Tyler Bowen and Keenan Bailey and Billy Fester are going to get in a room together, review it, pick two, and let's roll. And let's go try to win a Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, this to me feels like, I think you're right. I think you see three, and then I think you see that whittled down. I think they're also doing it. It's a positive side of things where it's, hey, we think we can get the most out of these guys. We think we can get the most out of Tegra if he's this. We think we can get the most out of whatever. I also think it's a safety net. Because if you're playing two guys, like let's just say you go to the Michigan game and it's Tegra who starts and then Padilla splits the reps with him, right? Like if it's those two, and whether it's 50-50, 60-40, whatever it is, whatever split you've dreamed up, it's also a safety net because you're keeping Josh Padilla active because he would be the next guy in line, and you're keeping him mobile and around because, what happens if you have a Purdue game from a Shabola, right? Or a game where he doesn't play well, or even Padilla for that matter, where they just go out on the field and it's very clear that they're not hacking it today. Now, all of a sudden, you're not putting somebody in who hasn't played in 3 weeks. You're keeping somebody fresh and you're keeping somebody ready to go. And I think they're also protecting themselves against that. So I think that is probably where we're going to end up, because I just don't know if anybody's going to truly grab hold of the position and seize it and say, I am good enough to where you can't take me off the field, just like Luke Montgomery and Austin Sierreveld and all these other guys on the offensive line. Like I don't think we're going to get there, which is why I think it makes sense for the upside. And then frankly, probably for the downside too, to have some kind of rotation.
That's all. I don't have any more right guard conversations.
I think we're just going to keep a close eye on it. It's kind of the one question left on this team, barring any other injuries, right?
Yeah. I mean, like on the offense, it's like the running backs. I think Ryan Day was very effusive in praising them today about like a step forward. He's like, people on the outside might not see a step, but I saw a big step.
Are there people on the outside who don't think I thought the running backs played well on Saturday.
I thought they played well, but I think he was more or less just saying like people might only see it as a little growth. I saw basically more. I think that was kind of his point.
It's two 18-year-olds, a 19-year-old, a 22-year-old. I mean,
and I think he's mentioned Bo to Quinshon once or twice now. The receivers are elite. The tight end usage has been good. Like the quarterback's a Heisman. Like
It is. It's been I think the better word for the tight end usage has been, it's been an experience.
Yes. There are certain things of the tight end experience which I railed against after the postgame pod on Saturday. But
Ohio State has used its tight ends.
Yes. But you don't have a question really about like the viability, I would say, necessarily of that room, unless you're talking about one specific package in which
I'm not just talking about one specific.
Oh, I am. I think
they have gotten uber creative with the tight end room this year in a way I have never seen. And yeah, it's what it is. It's what they've gotten uber creative with the tight end room this year. And I think it's been Ryan Day sometimes has mixed back to the negative. I don't think it's been to the negative or the positive. I just think it's been a mixed bag.
It's been whelming.
It's been whelming. That was the conversation before Day walked in today was, has anybody ever been whelmed? Not overwhelmed or underwhelming, just whelming. And I think the tight end usage has been whelming, right? Just whelming. And there's nothing wrong with it. How about we 11 personnel it up a little bit more going forward? That's all.
We'll see. We'll see when it's time to step on the gas pedal. I think that's kind of what we're all interested to see is like, what does this team look like at full go? And like the Michigan game is like when we finally might get an answer to that. This doesn't have to be a long discussion. I just know we've done the running back hierarchy thing quite a bit.
Can you save that thought so we can, pay some bills?
Let's do that.
Cool, because I don't have I just would like a break between trench talk and whatever I'm about to talk about next. And I love trench talk, but my name is not Bill Landis, so I don't love it as much as Bill Landis loves the trench talk. We've mentioned Bill Landis on back-to-back pods now. Shout out to Bill. He's awesome at this. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and transition to what Stefan wants to talk about, which is, I think, what I also want to talk about. So see you after this break here on Buckeye Talk.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. This Monday night, witness the end of an era. John Cena takes center stage for his final appearance ever on Monday Night Raw. One last match, one unforgettable farewell. Come celebrate the legacy of a true WWE legend. Monday Night Raw, November 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, only on Netflix. Be there for the moment everyone will be talking about.
This episode is brought to you by Disney. This Thanksgiving, Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde are back on the big screen. So grab your family and friends as Disney invites you to return to Zootopia for the phenomenal movie event of the holiday season. See all your favorite Zootopia characters plus new favorites in the most pawsome movie of the year. Don't miss Disney Zootopia 2 when it hits theaters everywhere November 26th. Get your tickets now.
Hey there, it's Dr. Sanjay Gupta with some exciting news to share. CNN is now streaming. That means you can read, watch, and stream everything in one subscription. You can watch news live 24/7. You can also explore catch-up videos and explainer videos, and you can also watch the library of CNN's originals, including my latest documentary, It Doesn't Have to Hurt. Just go to cnn.com/all access.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan, Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis coming off of Ryan Day's Tuesday press conference as Ohio State prepares to play UCLA on Saturday. Stefan, you had a thought. Continue to present your thought to the public.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot, especially the past few weeks, kind of about running back hierarchy and what that's looked like. And I think we know, Stephen, we talked about this, and I leave no doubt about answers to the running game. We know that Bo Jackson's kind of he's 1-1. Like he's this team's best running back. C.J. Donaldson kind of has the situational places they like to use him. Isaiah West is very much part of the mix. And James Peoples, just as we thought maybe he was being pushed out a little bit of the hierarchy, he's right back into it. And he's getting carries and he's part of the offense. I think Ryan Day, as of November 11th, as we're recording on November 11th, I think he's very fine with 4 running backs playing a good amount for Ohio State. And I think a lot of people would have predicted that by this point, we would have not just a hierarchy, but maybe 1 or 2 guys are just not really part of the mix anymore. And I just don't think that's the case. I think all 4 guys are part of this mix. Whether that workload is maybe different than what we thought, I think we all thought James Peoples was going to be the number 1 guy, no questions asked. That's not it, right? He's probably 3rd or 4th in this hierarchy, but he's still very much part of this offense to the point where when they play Michigan, when they play Indiana, when they play teams in the playoff, I'm not necessarily batting an eye if James Peoples is getting a snap in the second quarter and the game is still tied, right? And I think that's where I'm at with these running backs. It sounds like Ryan Day is very okay with there being 4 running backs that consistently play for Ohio State. I thought maybe that wouldn't be the case by the time we got to mid-late November, but I think he's fine with it. And he seems to be happy with the running game, happy-ish with the running game.
I think he's also he's happy with 4. I think you're right. And I'm also curious, what happens if, gas pedal time and you get to Michigan and Bo Jackson takes 150 yards on the second play of the game and they score a touchdown. And then on the second drive, he goes back out there and rips off 2 14-yard runs in a row. I'm wondering what that they're obviously going to play more than Bo Jackson. I'm not saying, hey, Bo Jackson never leaves the field. What I am saying is I wonder what happens when it is gas pedal time if there's some dude that just shows up,
which is fine. But
yes.
Like you say, Bo Jackson. What if that dude who rips off a big run is James Peoples? That's the thing is and
you keep James Peoples
maybe 1 or 2 guys kind of emerge as the workhorses that day because it seems to be clicking for them. But I think the door is open to any 4 of those guys being that. I don't think they're going to go into a game probably ever the rest of the season saying, hey, this is the game where 80% of our carries go to Bo Jackson. At least in terms of plan going into the game.
And then I think you're right. I think it could be a plan to get everybody involved, and that maybe still happens, but you could probably scale that back if some dude's just clearly riding the hot hand.
And it could be
you're right. It does not have to be it does not have to be Bo. It can be Isaiah. Bo has a couple of carries. You put Isaiah in, put Isaiah in for the 3rd series of the game, 70-yard house call. Okay, maybe put him back in the game, or James Peoples, he comes out there for a series and he runs over 3 defenders on 4 carries. And it's well, James is running mad today. Let's give him the ball a little bit more. I think that possibility is absolutely out there too, which is why I think partially that they are okay with it, because they know that they're not totally screwed with any of the 4 running backs. And if any of them kind of just have that day, capital T, capital D, you feel comfortable in maybe giving them more.
Can I ask a question? Because I feel like we keep doing this of like, okay, maybe this is the game where I finally use a worker. What tangible evidence has Carlos Lockett in his career ever shown us that day is coming where someone's going to be a workhorse?
Probably not.
I mean, it's not.
But I mean, like, not a workhorse in the sense of like every carry, but where 2 guys kind of separate themselves from the 4 that day.
I'm off that. In theory, yes. Because we're programmed. For a long time, we were programmed that they're going to have a workhorse running back. And then we started getting programmed through football in general that, okay, there's going to be 2 guys, right? That's just the world we live in where it's 2 guys. You can't play more than 2 guys. But again, this goes back to the listening to what the assistant coaches tell us. And we are one of the few programs in college football where we are privileged to get a chance to talk to position coaches multiple times a year. And they do not lie to us. Do they just come out and just say bluntly what's happening? Not all, because everybody's personality is differently. But Larry Johnson told us it would be a process because it's a lot of guys who hadn't played a lot of football. And it just kind of gave him new energy. Has anybody paying attention to Larry Johnson? He looks that dude looks like he's going to be coaching for another 5 years. And look at his room coming along, right? Keenan Bailey told us he had 5 guys he could play. So we can be annoyed by it all we want, but he told us in August he had 5 guys he can play, and they're playing 5 guys. We kept going, hey, James and CJ, right? Hey, James and CJ, right? And since February, Carlos has been like, Bo. In fact, if Isaiah West was healthy, he would be playing too. So y'all can keep coming at me with this like, oh, CJ and James are the new Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. I'm telling you right now, it's not just going to be those 2 guys. So he told us that in February. It's November, and there are 4 guys playing. I'm looking at when he was at Oregon right now, and this is why I'm asking this question. In 2022, 2 different running backs played because that's all he thought he had. But then also Jordan James got 50 carries that year. In 2023, his last year there, Bucky Irving and Jordan James both played. Jaden Limar played 24 carries because that's all he had was 2. Last year, Quinshon and Travion. Neither one of them have a game in their careers here with Carlos Lockett as the running backs coach where they had 20 carries. But that's all he had. He's told us multiple times, I have 4. So we're here. He's playing 4. And Ryan Day's perspective on that is 3 of these guys haven't played a lot of football. 2 of them were in high school where their senior years got cut short by injuries. And James Peoples, I'm pretty sure his senior year got cut by an injury too, and he didn't play a lot last year. So they have to get these guys in-game reps because none of these guys have full-time played running back since they were juniors in high school, and Bo Jackson didn't even do that. He was like splitting time as a receiver. And C.J. Donaldson's the only guy who's gotten any reps, which is why C.J. Donaldson got the ball 19 times against Texas. I don't think that game exists. If it works out that way, because they go tempo and somebody gets stuck out there and they're running the ball 7 straight times, and sure. But to answer your question, Gillis, what if Bo pops one? He did. Saturday, he popped a 75-yarder. And then they brought Isaiah West in like immediately because he just ran 75 yards down the field. You want him to do it again? No, that's like insane. 75 yards is a long way to run at full speed. So I just think this is where it is. Bo's going to get the ball. He's gotten it since the Washington game. 13, 10, 10, 13, and 14. Now, do we think that goes up back to 17 against Michigan? Probably, right? That's a fair point. But it's not going to get to 20. Isaiah West, since his first time being a part of the normal thing here, and this is not talking about when he got 8 against Grambling and the 1 carry against Minnesota. Since the Illinois game, 3 carries, 9 carries, 4 carries against Penn State, 9 carries against Purdue, and what I think has been his best game so far. He turned it into 60 yards. James Peoples, his touches are kind of all over the place, right? He got the ball 10 times against Texas. He hasn't gotten the ball more than 5 times before the Purdue game since the Illinois game. But he's going to play. And then as we've already established, C.J. Donaldson's the guy they bring out there in situationals. So if it's 3rd and long, C.J. Donaldson's going to be on the field. If it's 3rd and 1, C.J. Donaldson's going to be on the field. If they're on the goal line, C.J. Donaldson is going to be on the field. So I think what we're waiting on is what we're programmed to think. And that's that at some point, 2 of these guys are going to be Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. And everybody else is going to sit. And that's not the way Carlos Lockett is using them. He has two dudes who are just like 1, 2, first down, second down, they're on the field. And then he's got James Peoples who's working in there as kind of like their spellback. And then CJ Donaldson is out there whenever there's a scenario where you probably shouldn't have a guy with a lot of inexperience out there, i.e. Isaiah West trying to block on a 1st and 10, and it didn't go well. So I don't think there's going to be a paring down. I don't think there's going to be a game where one of these guys gets the ball 20 times. I think Carlos Locklyn, the Purdue game was the first time I felt like there was a rhythm to the 4 guys being out there. And I just think this is the world they're going to live in because Carlos Locklyn has 6 running backs on his roster, and he thinks 4 of them should play every Saturday. And so until he changes that opinion, that's what's going to happen every Saturday. And as a result, Bo Jackson is not going to be on his last leg on January 19th.
That's it.
But so I guess my question would be,
if you talking about rhythm there comes into play, because we saw against Illinois, the 4 running backs where it felt like there wasn't much of a rhythm to when certain guys were coming in. And that's the thing is like that's the important part of establishing. If you have a game like the Purdue game where it feels like all 4 guys can get into a rhythm, then yeah, that's fine. But if you get to, you're halfway through the Michigan game and you're realizing, hey, it only really seems like Bo and CJ are the ones establishing a bit of a rhythm, do you kind of pivot and go from there? That's kind of more what I meant. But that's the interesting part of it is right now, I think the door is open to like number 1 game plan is all 4 of these guys have a bit of a rhythm and it all works.
Can I ask you a question about that? Andrew, I think you're about to ask a different thing, so let's table that.
Yeah.
You're right. It didn't feel like there was a rhythm the last time they did this. Is there any aspect to this? They've been playing 60 plays a game, so when there's less plays, it made a little less sense to be trying to get 4 guys out there. They played 78 snaps on Saturday. So is there something to, as we see the ramp up, right, as we get through like the load management part of the schedule, and they start opening it up in a little bit more, and now all of a sudden, I think Ryan Day said that Purdue played 37 plays, so Ohio State's like 78, which is insane. That's a result of your offense. Purdue can't get your offense off the field, and Ohio State's constantly putting you in 3-and-out situations, and that's complimentary football at its best, right? But if we're gonna start to see a world where Ohio State's 70 plays again, it opens up 10 extra plays to where you can fit that 4th guy out there versus, I mean, the Washington game, they had 2 possessions the entire first half. So if you were throwing 4 guys out there, then guys can't get in the rhythm. But if you're going to play more plays, then all of a sudden Bo Jackson can get 14 carries. And it felt like, while also 3 other running backs played football that day.
And I think when they have the foot on the pedal games, you probably will be closer to some more snaps.
Right. Which is, I mean, like and so what I'm saying is if they're going to play, if they're averaging 60, and maybe they get to 70, 75 carries, that doesn't mean 15 more carries for Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
Or CJ Donaldson or James Peoples. It means 4 more for Bo, 4 more for this guy, 2, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. It just means more people can come to the party if your house is bigger, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's
and, I guess my kind of point was like, we've talked so much about this offense deliberately playing it slow. Mm-hmm. Ryan Day talking about not wanting a bunch of snaps to keep guys healthy, not wanting to really push the envelope too much in games where you don't need to, because, Steven, you were talking about this before I think it was before the game or during the game about Indiana, and basically like when you compare the number of snaps that defense has played, like at some point, like Ryan Day is going to say like, this is what we saved up for. Yeah. It's like, this is what we saved those snaps for. So I'm not saying that like, hey, Isaiah, thank you for your service, sit down. CJ, thank you for your service, sit down. It's Bo and James, or it's, Bo and CJ and everybody else. I think you can see all 4 running backs, but I do wonder if this is a, like I look at the Penn State game, Bo 26 snaps, CJ 15, James 11, Isaiah 9.
Yep.
I wonder if that becomes, they played 57 snaps in that game. I wonder if, like, let's say you play 57. I know they've been playing a little slower. So I wonder if you get to the playoff and that becomes, Bo 30, 32, 33, you give him 5-6 more snaps. CJ, you get a little bit more. And then somebody, maybe Isaiah, instead of playing 9, he gets 1 series. Or James, instead of getting certain carries, plays 1 or 2 series. And you still keep them involved. You still keep them active. but the herd thins down a little bit. I think that is entirely possible, because I think that might be what they've been saving these guys for, because we know from talking with people in the building, Stephen, that like Bo and Isaiah, they are very well aware that they are 18 years old, and they are very well aware that James Peoples is a second-year college player, and that really only one of those guys has ever really done this for a long stretch of time before, and it's CJ Donaldson. And I think that might be part of it, where it's, yes, you keep people involved, but you also start to favor your guy that you like best in certain playoff games and in certain situations.
And I'm saying that there's no visual, like you just said it. They played 78 plays against Purdue, and they played 57 plays against Penn State. So that's why Isaiah West played less. But also they fumbled in a 2-minute drill. So those were extra 6 or 7 plays that got taken off of the board. But also Penn State had a 75-play drive that went for a touchdown. So that took some more plays off of the board. So even that, I think it's relative to how many snaps they played. So if you want to say that, hey, one of these guys, if they're only going to play 57 snaps in a game, then only 3 of these guys get reps, okay, sure, because there's less reps to go around. But if they're going to play 70 plays in a game, then there's an extra 13 snaps that weren't available against Penn State, that probably 8 of them would have gone to Isaiah. I just think we can't live in this world where Ohio State recruits players of this magnitude, and then we ask why they don't play them, and then they start playing them, and then we go, why are you playing all these players?
It's fair.
You know, like it can't. Carlos, these guys' job is to recruit and develop the room and fight for their guys to play. And the more guys you have that they feel are game ready, the more guys who are going to play. Because we're not having this conversation. Remember the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago where I asked you guys, is the tight end room the best room on the roster? And you guys were like, no, the wide receiver room is. We haven't seen rotation there. We're still 9 games in. We're still not seeing the rotation. They got all the 5 stars, right? Like they played more guys on Saturday because Carnell Tate didn't play. But per capita, the running back room and the tight end rooms are playing more people than the wide receiver room is right now. And that's not me trying to rag on the wide receiver room, but if Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator, and more importantly, Devin Jordan, who's now down on the field, and I'm sure he's handling a lot of those rotations now for Brian Hartline, so Hartline can worry about calling the plays. If they thought against Penn State that Mylan Graham and Bryson Rogers should have been out there at receiver, they would have put them out there at wide receiver. But they didn't. But Carlos Lachlan played 4 backs, and they all touched the ball. I think they have 4 running backs to play. And so if that means Bo Jackson doesn't have, but he has 2 games where he played 30 snaps. He played 30 on the dot against Washington and 32 against Wisconsin. But they also barely gave him the ball against Wisconsin because they threw it 40 plus times. I just think they have 4 running backs they want to play every single game. And that's what they're going to do. That's the makeup of this team. We on the outside keep looking at this team and going, look at all the recruiting talent in the wide receiver room. You should do that more often. Meanwhile, the guys who are at practice every day and watching the film keep telling us, no, look at the tight ends and the running backs we have. We're going to play those guys. And that's what they're going to do, whether we agree with it or not. And so far, they've been doing it for 9 games, and they're 9-0 and clearly the best team in the country. So not off base. Unlike the right guard situation, the rotations in tight end and running back are not from a place of weakness. They are from a place of strength in their minds. And apparently, Stefan so is defensive tackle.
Yep.
At this point.
Ryan Day spoke very highly of Edric Houston on Tuesday. And as you mentioned at the top of the show about Tywan Malone coming back to probably play against UCLA after not playing against Purdue. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating how we got here. I don't think it's surprising that we got to a point where we think defensive tackle depth is good, because we questioned it in the offseason. But I think we all knew in the back of our minds, like Ohio State is a talented team, talented roster. At some point, maybe the defensive tackle depth starts to click a bit. And it was a very roundabout way of getting there, because Caden McDonald has been everything we thought he was going to be. Edric Houston, for the better part of the first half of the season, wasn't that, right? There was the injury at the start of fall camp. There was another injury early in the season. There was just some inconsistent plays, some penalties. I think he had a game where he was lined up offsides twice, and then also against Washington had an unsportsmanlike or something after the play. And while that was going on, Tywan Malone was developing. So then you're telling yourself, okay, the development that we thought could happen is happening. But in the midst of that, Edric Houston kind of took a step back. And now it's starting to click for Edric. It's been clicking for Caden McDonald. I think 2 weeks ago was the highest graded defensive tackle in the country. I think the game against Penn State. And this week it was Caden McDonald who was the highest graded defensive tackle in the country. So you look at those 2 guys. You had Tywan Malone in. We've seen good things from Will Smith. Spencer Holbrook from Letterman Row brought up Jason Moore and kind of him playing a bit against Purdue and Ryan Day liking, some of what he saw there. Jarquez Carter got a lot of praise in the offseason from Larry Johnson and some of the other guys on the defense. So it was an interesting path, but we got here, and it's mid-November, and Ohio State feels pretty good about its defensive tackle depth, but also what it has at the top with guys like Edric Taiwan and Cade McDonald, of course. So we got here eventually. It was 6 months of very interesting conversations, but we got here. We're here.
Yeah, it's the roster developing, man. There's a lot of guys who haven't played a lot of football before this year, and now they're trying to figure out who can do what with them. And because they're better than everybody else, they can also do it on Saturdays. And again, we understand it's not always the greatest thing to watch. We are also watching it. And every single Saturday, Stefan has to hear me go, they're doing it again. They're playing I formation from the 26-yard line. But then again, it's all necessary because they're figuring some things out. But also, I think, again, there's the identity we thought this team was going to be, and there's the personnel Ohio State is using to be that identity that maybe isn't on par with what we thought it was going to be. Even Max Clare has, in some way, I'm probably going to be wrong just because there's 3 games left and Max Clare needs 4 catches left to get to 30, because their passing attack really is just JJ and Carnell, really in a way that's more significant than I think I envisioned, because Brandon Ennis is even a secondary character in the passing game, right? There's 3 guys who get the ball, and then the 4th guy will either be the running backs or this guy. It's really just these 2. And then every so often, depending on the game, it's a tight end or it's a running back or something like that, right? And I don't think any of us were envisioning a world where this was a 2-man passing attack quite to this degree. So but it's still, their identity is the passing game first. It's just not as spread around as I think any of us anticipated getting. Because even Gillis, when you were predicting he was going to get 30, I don't think that you thought that you were going to be up against the buzzer with 3 games left. You probably thought that by the time we got to the Penn State game, he'd already crossed that threshold.
I mean, I think I had him. I think Stefan asked me for a number. I think I said 41 or something.
Right.
I remember thinking, I thought we would probably be right about it. A little over 30 maybe right now. Because when we did this, it was no injuries, 13 games.
Mm-hmm.
What does Max Clare get? I think through 9. I mean, what is 13? I mean, I'm probably 3 games. So I would have probably would have been right around the same ballpark. But I probably thought we would have been maybe on the right side of 30. At this point, certainly not at 38 right now, but I figured we'd probably be at 30, 31, 32, something like that.
Or at least whoever the third guy was in receptions would be over 30. Carnell Tate only has 39 catches. So many of them have been down the field, so he's averaging 18.2 yards per catch. But it's a 2-man passing attack, but they're also playing significantly slower than we thought they were going to play. And it's throwing off the counting numbers for everything. And because again, this is their identity. They just don't have to do it every Saturday. And so it's thrown off, I think. And I'm wondering when we do our Market Down Mondays next season, how that impacts how we go about counting numbers in terms of predicting some things here. Because Carnell Tate has 39 catches in 8 games. I don't know if I would have predicted that. I don't know if I would have predicted that the only person above 40 catches is Jeremiah.
I was going to say, JJ's counting numbers are fine.
Yeah. JJ's fine. Yes. But that's it. Gillis asked a bunch of recruiting questions. We're going to hold off on that because that's an hour-long podcast about roster construction and roster construction.
Somebody tweeted at me and said, I need this to be 3 hours next time. I don't think we're going to do 3 hours on recruiting.
Yeah, that's an entire roster building thing. So we're going to save that for Tuesday. Yeah. That'll be the Tuesday pod. Next week we'll talk about some recruiting. Plus, that's just a good week to do it.
I want to say one more thing because we alluded to this also on the Leave No Doubt pod. Ohio State was pretty pleased with what they got from Bryson Rogers. And I think that's a guy that probably doesn't get enough shine, even though I guess we did it literally 2 podcasts ago. But some more shine on Bryson Rogers because I thought he was awesome, and Ryan Day kind of reaffirmed some of those thoughts.
If you were wondering what the hierarchy is behind the top 3, it's Bryson Rogers is number 4. Significantly. And Saturday, for all the I want to see Mylan Graham, bright future, not there yet. Because Bryson Rogers had some really reliable catches on Saturday. In a way where if something happened to somebody for a couple of snaps in a national championship game and Bryson Rogers had to go in, I don't think I'd be holding my breath.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be an interesting offseason talking about that position, considering that 2 of the starters might be back. And I think it's still going to have some very fascinating conversations about receiver.
Yeah. 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial. $3.99 after that. Stefan's going to spend all of Saturday watching right guard. I guess I'll join him. I guess. You know what's going to happen? JJ's going to catch a one-handed 40-yard bomb, and we're going to be going, what happened? Because we were too busy watching Tegra Shabola or Josh Padilla or Ethan Inyawa in pass pro.
At night, though.
At night. I wonder if they're going to wear some alternates. They haven't worn any alternate jerseys this year.
This would have been a great game for the Blackout.
You know, we're just sports writers. 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. If you're listening to this, we're going live at 11 a.m. today on YouTube. We're going to be rewatching the Ohio State-Tennessee college football playoff game as a way to get ready for Nico Iamalava's return on Saturday. Ironically enough, he again has to play in a night game. It's not going to be as cold as it was on Tuesday, but it'll still be cold for a guy who's in Southern California. So that'll be fun. 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Stefan, for Andrew, for myself. Talk to you guys later.